Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tesla Journeys. I appreciate you coming back and taking a look at this video, which is part of the paint protection film series. It's a DIY project that I started because I figured I do want to protect my Model Y, which I just got in February of this year, 2023. It's got a tow hitch, it's blue, and I'm going to be doing some things that the paint may not hold up going camping and long road trips. And we all know what happens in those long road trips. We see a bunch of bugs that come onto the front bumper, and then we've got to work and scrub or do a couple washes to get them all off. So I figured, you know what, I want to protect the vehicle, but I don't want to pay that $6, 7, $8,000 that I was being quoted. So you know what? Drive Protected came along, and I said, let me give them a shot. Eric from Drive Protected has many videos out there on how to install the PPF yourself. So that's what I did. So I hope you enjoy this and can learn. And if you have any comments, please do comment so I can learn, because I have a feeling this may not be the last time that I do a DIY project like this to install paint protection. Okay, so let's get started. So here you see I'm getting the rear fender on the passenger side ready for installation. Now I've taken out the film from the box, and what I'm doing now, I'm cutting that piece by itself, because many of the pieces come in one large panel of the PPF pieces that you get. So in separating just the one piece that I'm about to install makes it a lot easier. Now, once I cut the piece that I want to install, I soak it with a ton of slip solution. Well, why do I soak it? And if it's easy to move, I can place it exactly where I want to place it and then start tacking it down. Because if it's too dry, then it won't move, and it'll make it so much more difficult to actually place it where it should be placed. Now here I continue to tack it down and squeegee the liquid from behind the film, and I try to stretch the film as much as possible and get it down, and just making sure that all the liquid is out from behind the film. In order to help me do that and to make sure that the film stay down, I use the heat gun, and the heat gun dries out any additional moisture and helps the film really stay down and not lift up and dry underneath. So that's what I did. And as I did that, I checked for any bubbles and uh, try to wrap the edges as well so that it can seal and not lift from the edges. Once I did that, that panel was done and I was ready to start on the rear passenger door. So now that I've cut the panel, I clean up the door as best as I can, soak the panel, and prepare it in order to take it off the backing. Now, I had to pause for a second, get more slip solution, because as I'm soaking the panel, I'm also needing to soak the door, and those smaller bottles go pretty quickly. So here I put the panel on the door and moving it into place as best as I can, corner to corner, and tack it down a little bit at the corners. And then I move on to where the door handle area is, in order to get it down there as much as possible, lined up with the door handle, and make sure that the door handle can open and that it'll stay down around the handle, because I can easily untack the corners and spray it again and make sure I stretch it to where it needs to be stretched if needed, and then get it down. Now, the final touches, I try to go back around the door handle and then move on to using some of the tack solution, the heat gun, to try to dry out some of the liquid from the door panel in order to start wrapping it. And I started to wrap it, and I still needed more of the heat gun. So I continue to use the heat gun. And then I realized, you know what, it's really not sticking, it's not staying down. So I think I need some more of that heat gun to help get it down. Now in the corner here, I noticed that it wasn't sitting properly. So I used some more of the tack solution and then come back and hit it again with some of the heat gun in order to continue to dry it and get it wrapped. And that was a little bit challenging because I wanted to wrap it, but it wouldn't dry enough to wrap and close it and finish the door. So I kept working at it and working at it. And finally, I said, okay, let me leave it alone. And I worked on the top area of the door to make sure that that was down and there were no bubbles and no solution behind the film. And as I went through the door, I said, you know what? I need to squeegee a little bit more, put a little bit more pressure. And that's what I did around the door area and the edges of the door in order to get it to stay. Now, moving on to the front panel and the front door of the passenger side, went through the same process, cleaned it up, cut that panel out from the kit and soaked it. And then I went back to the front door and soaked the front door. So the same process as in the rear door to make sure that it was clean and that it was ready to apply the film. And I went through the same process as I did in the rear door, right? Tacking each corner, making sure that it would stay, then moving on to around the door handle. Here I felt more confident and comfortable getting this door down because now I've done 3 doors and it was fairly on the simple side. Um, they weren't hard to do, the doors, because they're pretty flat. It is just getting the skill of how much pressure to put onto the panel with the squeegee to make sure that the water from behind the film is out, and then working at it as much as possible to make sure that the edges stay down. And then, of course, letting it dry and using the heat gun to help it dry and stay down so that there's no lifting. After letting it sit for a little while, I came back and I hit it again with the gun, make sure that it's dry and that the edges along the front area of the door and the top part by the window are down, and then wrap the door and finish it off. Next, I start cutting the piece for the A-pillar, which goes right above the windows. And I soaked it, cleaned that A-pillar, and started to add the film. Once I started to add the film, I went through the same process as the doors and tack it down once it was lined up, and was very, I guess, careful with not tacking it down too quickly because it can quickly get misaligned because it's such a long piece. Now here, I had a service appointment, and that is the Tesla mobile service that came because a button on the passenger front seat was loose and it wasn't operating properly. The seat would move, but the seat would not move when you press the button. You had to actually insert the button and then push the button backwards or forwards for it to actually operate. So he came, replaced that as I did my install, and I tested it, and he was in and out probably half an hour. So I was able to continue my work while he was there and finish the A-pillar once he left. And one of the most important things, again, I wanted to make sure that the A-pillar was down and it wasn't going anywhere, since that is the front area of the vehicle where it catches most of the wind and debris and anything else on the road. So I hit it with the heat gun many times to make sure that it would stay down. And you see the yellow fan there, that was my helper against mosquitoes, and it worked like a charm. Okay, now that you've seen the driver's side and passenger side installation of the fenders and the doors, the next video I'm going to share with everyone is the bumper, the rear bumper, as well as the hatch installation. Now, the hatch installation is interesting because the way that it is instructed to install didn't work as planned for me. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully you'll learn something through my experience and through what I went through to PPF my 2023 Model Y. I hope you enjoy the ride and the rest of the videos that I have to share with you, and in hopes that those videos do encourage you to do it yourself as well, because you can. You can save thousands of dollars doing it yourself. So I look forward to sharing the next video on the Model Y. So if you haven't already, please subscribe and like and comment as well, because I'd love to hear your feedback and learn from all of you from your comments as well. And if anyone has had the experience, sharing with me your experience as well. Thank you for watching and looking forward to the next one. Thanks again for the privilege of your time. Whoop, whoop.